Hi, and we are back with part 6. Okay, so what I've done now is just cleaned out the airbrush and switched it out for scale 75 basic flesh. And now we are going to do these now quickly, zenithal wise. Hopefully I've got enough height to get underneath it. Yes, I do. So let's just get cracking on. He says, let's just get a bit more. Okay, sorry. Right. This is fun. Look at that. See those bits of shit that just blew straight through there for focusing? See? It's just the stuff that you're dealing with, even after I've sieved it through a microparticle sieve. See all that shit coming out? That's less than ideal, isn't it? Okay. Whoa, bloody hell. That's not shit. That's not how you do it. Yeah, man, even the experts fuck it up. Look at that. Yeah, she's definitely highlighted. Oh dear. Okay. What I want to do now is have a quick look at each one of them and make sure they've actually got enough on. If any, some of these are a bit heavy, but I'll be knocking it back with the glaze anyway. drowned. She's going to be alright. Decided that one's face wasn't done enough. It's actually quite difficult doing this on camera for you guys watching, because I'm half having to watch that I'm actually recording it properly, and I'm half having to watch that I'm actually not fucking up the miniature. And obviously of the two of them, my priority is not fucking up the miniature, so you have to bear with me. Right, that is them done with the pale flesh. What I'm going to do now is dunk the airbrush in the cleaning bucket, and we're going to switch up to the final lighter colour. Give this a bit of a clean out. In order to record in here as well, I'm not actually wearing a respirator, and I haven't got the extractors on either, so I am slowly killing myself for your entertainment. I hope you're all extremely pleased with that. Right. Okie dokie. So now we are going to go straight to light skin. And we only want to just dust this over the top of them. Nice and thin. Don't need very much of this. Gonna go kind of 1/4 thinner, 3/4 light skin. And hope that there's not too much shit made it in there. We'll soon see. Okay, we're gonna be alright with that. Just turn it down a bit. Better. Right then, let's get banging on with these. Just extreme highlights now. I'm going to try and put it over here so I can get to them, but you can still see them. Turn the power back up a bit, just get a bit speckly. We don't want that, we want a nice even coat. Sorry if I've gone a bit quiet, I'm concentrating. I'm not screwing these up too much. As you know, I don't edit these videos because I think it's slightly disrespectful to the people who watch you if you are editing out any fuck-ups you make, because you're only human and it's supposed to be either entertaining or educational, which means we all make mistakes, and it's about how you deal with those. it's hard on a lot of these because obviously with the masking the way it has to be, you can't really see all of the areas like the bellies that you might want to normally airbrush, but that's okay, it's only a guide as I said. We do want some contrast. What I'm going to do after this though will really bring these minis to life, like really it's a top tip. Okay, just going to go quickly back through and check if they've all got enough highlight on. In that one's case, more than enough. I'm going to get that corner of that hand. That one's really good. That one's overly seasoned. Just going to sort the hand out on that one. Lovely. Okay, that's all the girls next highlighted up with the pale skin. So what we do at this point is clean the airbrush off, and then actually I might as well just do it live on camera rather than starting another video. It's not going to take very long. Just going to dump clean the airbrush, whack the compressor off for now. And then let's just change the lighting angle a bit and push all these back. Hopefully I've got a suitable pot, because I wasn't planning on doing anything right now, but yeah, that'll do. Let's clean it out. So as you can see now, all the minis are quite pale. Yep. So now what we're going to do is add a glaze of Indian Shadow, which is a scale 75 colour, and it's a absolutely bustingly phenomenally lovely colour. And I'm just going to take some water from the pot, and we're going to dramatically thin this down. And the water in the pot is full of paint water from let's bring this over here so I can actually do it a bit quicker. Yeah, it's got the same colour water in it as the model's paint jobs, which just helps to tie everything in a bit more. Okay, so we want this really thin consistency. That's what we want. Just like that. And what we're going to use is the pigments very thin, which will allow it to sink into the recesses like a wash would do, but also it sits on top of the surface of the mini in certain places, altering the pigmentation in the skin. So we're going to just work this in, on and around. Making sure it doesn't pull, just like with the wash. But you can see the difference that makes. So I'm going to do all of these quite quickly, and what I'm going to do after I've done all of these quite quickly like this is dust them again with the highlight white or the highlight pale skin, and then while I'm actually painting them I'll be working a series of glazes. So I'll be putting in browns, the odd green even, into the skin, just to kind of lift them up a little bit, provide them with a bit more detail and a bit more tonal variation, so that not every girl has the same skin colour, obviously. Although I've got no real problem with that, they're, you know, underhive matriarchy, so they don't ever see the daylight, and I'm sure they all do have the same skin colour. Make sure you get particularly into their six-pack and their abdomens. These are really small minis. You know, everything new kind of 40k is much smaller or larger depending on the scale. So Space Marines much larger, humans slightly smaller. Facial details and stuff are much more refined now, they're digital sculpted. These ones don't have a lot of detail, I don't think, actually, in the skin portions because of how small they are. So we have an extra challenge as painters, is to try and lift up the best that we can with what we've got to work with. I like these miniatures, don't get me wrong, but the original Escher sculpts had just way more character to them because they were non-3D sculpted. They were sculpted with green stuff by Jess Goodwin. And it's whoever, I don't know who actually did digitally sculpt these, but they had a tough act to follow because obviously I think Escher's probably the most popular of all the gangs for obvious reasons. And sculpting a new version of them in the new scale must have been really quite daunting. I wouldn't have wanted to do it. Not that I'd know how to. Okay. See that? This one either has the potential to be really nice when it's painted or look really shit, and I have not figured out which way it's going to go yet because of the pose and the head I chose for it. And I'm hoping it's going to go towards the really cool end of that scale, but who knows. You know, you can be pretty slapdash with this, as you can see, because it's not like a wash. It doesn't pool in the same way, and it's really thin. Although the pigment looks strong when it's going on, actually when this dries it's very, very negligible. You can glaze up sort of several coats of this to start to bring in the details that you want. Last one. Right, and then let's just bring that gang leader down again. I'm just going to re-pick out her torso detail a little bit more. Okay. So let's just check any of the torsos might need doing a bit more. That's also okay. Right, so that's all of the gangers with some glaze on them now, and they've all had their primary highlights done. Airbrush pre-shade highlights as opposed to final highlights, obviously. So what I'm going to do now is let it dry, sack it off for the day, probably. I will come back next time, and off camera I'll put another layer of glaze onto these girls. Just so that the definition is captured as I want it to be. And hopefully you can start to see that is coming in now. They're starting to have some nice definition in there. But obviously we're going to further glaze that down, and we're going to really lift those lights back up again on one side with the direction of light. I think this is going to be a long project, guys, and I'm sure I'm boring you to tears. I'm sorry. Let me know if you don't want to film all the stages. But I think it'll be useful to film all the stages. It might even help keep me motivated. It's going to be a long slog, this one. Alright, thank you very much for watching. I don't know if I showed you this dry, actually. So this competition piece I was doing for a prize winner is done now, and all the water effects have dried, and it looks really lovely. So I'm pleased with that, and then I am still working on the never-ending Death Company commission for my mate, with an awful lot of those to do, and I've got so much other stuff just knocking around the studio that's half done. I'm sure you all have as well. Alright, have a nice afternoon. Thanks very much for watching. I am off to get a glass of wine. See you later. Bye.